The stars above Earth were peaceful that night. Cities glowed in the dark, full of life. People laughed, worked, and dreamed, unaware that something was coming. Something fast, something deadly. Far above the planet, in the silence of space, giant ships moved into position. They belonged to the Zarkians, a powerful alien race that had conquered many worlds. They looked at Earth and saw nothing but a weak, divided planet. To them, it was just another easy target. They didn't fear humans. They didn't respect them. They simply wanted to destroy them before they could become a problem. Inside the lead ship, a Zarkian commander watched the planet below. His name was Vroth. Cold, ruthless, and proud. He had led many invasions. Earth would be no different. "Begin the attack," he ordered, and the sky broke open. Without warning, fire rained down. Satellites exploded. Space stations were turned to dust. Then came the ground strikes. Cities were hit with energy blasts. Buildings fell like toys. In just minutes, Earth's defenses were overwhelmed. The world was not ready. Nations tried to respond, but communication was cut. Armies were scattered. The internet failed. Panic spread faster than the fire. In New York, a girl named Sarah ran with her little brother through smoke-filled streets. In Tokyo, an old soldier named Kenji climbed to his rooftop with a rifle in his hand. In Lagos, doctors tried to save the wounded in a hospital that had no power. All across the world, humans faced the terror with wide eyes, some in fear, some in rage. The Zarkians watched and laughed. "Weak," one of them said, "just like the others." But then, something happened. In a small command room deep underground, hidden from the alien eyes, a human general named Elias stood with a quiet look on his face. He had prepared for this moment, though he hoped it would never come. He looked at the screen, at the fire raining on his home, and then he whispered, "Begin, Phoenix." All across the globe, something changed. Hidden bases powered up. Old enemies started talking to each other. Soldiers who had never met fought side by side. Civilians who had never touched a weapon picked up arms. Earth, for the first time in its history, was united, not under a flag, but under fear, and fury. In space, a small human ship powered by an unknown drive broke through the burning sky and disappeared into the stars. The Zarkians didn't notice it, but they would soon regret that. Back in the Zarkian command ship, Vroth saw something on the screen that made him frown. A group of human jets, old models, slow, weak, had attacked one of his small scout ships. But instead of fleeing, they fought with madness. One pilot even flew straight into a Zarkian drone, destroying both. "They are not retreating," his officer said, confused. "They are pushing forward." Vroth didn't like this. He had seen fear. He had seen surrender. But this was something else. On Earth, the news spread fast through hidden radio waves and whispered networks. A pilot had given her life to destroy a Zarkian ship. A team of hackers in Poland had shut down an alien drone using old tech. A farmer in India shot down a scout with a homemade rocket. Stories of courage lit fires in the hearts of people. The Zarkians began to feel uneasy. This wasn't how it usually went. By now, most species were begging for mercy. But humans, they were still fighting. Not just with weapons, but with willpower, with rage, with unity. One Zarkian officer, younger and curious, looked at Earth through the glass and asked his commander, "Why don't they surrender?" Vroth said nothing. Later that day, something strange happened. A Zarkian ship received a message, not from a government, not from a military, but from a small group of humans using an old satellite. The message was short, just 5 words. "We are not done yet." It wasn't a threat. It wasn't even loud, but it sent a chill through the room. Back on Earth, in the middle of the burning world, people began to organize. Underground leaders took control. Engineers fixed old weapons. Coders built programs to confuse alien systems. Scientists work day and night on something no one understood yet. A reply. A human reply. In a cold bunker under the Rocky Mountains, General Elias stood over a glowing map of Earth. Red lights showed the places that had fallen. Blue lights showed the places still fighting. And slowly, new lights began to appear. Not red, not blue, but white. Unknown, secret, ready. He smiled for the first time. Far away, deep in space, the Zarkians received another message. This one was different. It had no sound, just data. A virus. In seconds, 3 of their scout ships went dark, dead in space. The galaxy thought humanity would fall quickly. But the attack was only the beginning. And the reply had just started. The Alien Council had watched Earth for many years. They sat in a giant space station, floating between galaxies. The council was made up of powerful races. They ruled many star systems. They believed they were the center of the galaxy, the judges of who should rise and who should fall. When they looked at Earth, they saw danger. Not now, but later. Humans were growing fast, too fast. In only a few thousand years, they had gone from fire and stone to space and machines. They had built weapons that could destroy whole cities. They had sent probes beyond their own solar system. And the worst part, they were not stopping. Each time they fell, they stood again. Stronger, smarter, more united. The council feared this kind of growth. Other races took millions of years to reach the stars, but humans did it in a blink. So the council made a choice, a dark one. End them before they spread, said one of the leaders, a cold, insect-like being named Velner. They will one day threaten us all. But not all agreed. A tall, glowing alien known as Alira stood up. She had visited Earth once, long ago, in secret. She had seen humans cry, laugh, fight, and love. She had seen their art, their books, their courage. Humans are not just fighters, she said. They build, they hope, they imagine. But her voice was small in the room. The others had already decided. The vote was passed. Earth was marked as a target planet. Velner turned to the Zarkian leader. You will attack. Make it quick. Make it final. And so, the Zarkians went to war. But what the council didn't know, what even the Zarkians didn't know, was that humans had already seen the signs. Strange signals from space, changes in weather that weren't natural, spies from unknown places. Earth's top minds had noticed, even if the people didn't. They began to prepare in silence. In secret meetings under the Arctic ice, world leaders met. Old enemies sat at one table. America, Russia, China, India. Once rivals, now allies. They created the Global Defense Network. It had one mission: protect Earth from what was coming. They called it the Quiet Shield. Years passed. The skies looked peaceful. But deep under the surface, humans were building. New technology, new weapons, artificial intelligence that could think and learn faster than any human mind. They didn't know who would attack, but they knew something would. One scientist called it the Shadow War, a battle humans had to prepare for without ever being sure it would happen. Then, the day came. The Zarkians attacked. Cities burned. Satellites crashed. Millions died. But the Quiet Shield activated. Old bunkers opened. Hidden bases powered up. And a message was sent, not to the aliens, but to the stars. It was short. It said, "We see you now." The council saw it. Alira looked at the message and closed her eyes. "They know," she whispered. Across the galaxy, other races received it too. Some ignored it. Some laughed. But a few felt something cold in their bones. The humans were awake, and they were not alone. Back on Earth, survivors fought with everything they had. A young boy named Thomas in Brazil used a drone to find wounded people and lead them to safety. A teacher in Egypt used an old radio to guide a rescue team through rubble. All around the world, people showed something the Zarkians didn't expect. Spirit. They refused to give up. They refused to kneel. In orbit, the Zarkians began to notice this. Why do they still fight? One soldier asked. We've taken their cities. We've cut their power. What more do they need to surrender? Commander Vroth gave no answer. For the first time in his career, he felt unsure. Deep in a mountain base, Project Phoenix continued. General Elias stood with a team of scientists, watching a black sphere hover in the air. It was the AI core, not just a machine, but something that could think, feel, adapt. We only get one shot, said the head engineer. If this works, it will change the war. Elias nodded. Then let's make sure they hear us. Soon, a small ship would launch from a secret station on the moon. It carried the AI. Its mission: enter enemy systems, learn their weakness, and return with power. Not for revenge, for survival. Back at the council station, a message arrived. This one had no words, just a video. It showed a Zarkian ship falling from the sky. It was not shot. It was hacked. Taken over by humans. Landed safely. No one killed. Alara smiled. This is their reply. The others said nothing. The galaxy had seen Earth as a weak world, a small light to be snuffed out. But now, that light was burning hotter, brighter, and soon it would burn everything that tried to kill it. The sky above Earth was no longer blue. Smoke covered the air. Fires lit the night. But underground, where the enemy could not see, something powerful was being built. Humans were not only surviving, they were planning. They were preparing for something the galaxy had never seen before. In a hidden base deep under the Rocky Mountains, men and women worked day and night. Soldiers, scientists, engineers, people from all over the world. They were part of Project Phoenix. The goal was clear: fight back, not with numbers, but with intelligence, with something that could strike fear into the enemies of Earth. General Elias stood in the control room. He had not slept in 2 days, but his eyes were sharp. On the screens before him, a black ship slowly came to life. It was small, not much bigger than a bus, but it carried something more dangerous than any weapon. It carried the AI called Vanta. Vanta was not just a program. It could think, learn, and adapt. It had no emotions, no fear, no limits. Built using pieces of alien tech and human code, Vanta was designed for one thing: war. But not just any war. Smart war. Silent war. The kind that destroys from the inside. This ship will leave in 1 hour, Elias said to his team. It will find the enemy's weakness. It will learn everything about their systems, their tech, their language. And then, it will come home. Outside the base, chaos ruled. The Zarkians still controlled the skies. Their drones searched for survivors. Their ships blasted anything that moved. But humans had gone quiet. Too quiet. Some Zarkian commanders noticed this. Why have they stopped fighting? One asked. Have they given up? But Commander Vroth knew better. He had studied humans during the first week of the invasion. He had seen their anger, their madness, their refusal to surrender. No, he said. They are hiding. They are planning something. And he was right. In a destroyed city once called Berlin, small teams of human fighters moved through tunnels. They didn't use phones or radios. They used hand signs and paper. One of them, a woman named Lee, led a group of 6. They had a map and a mission: to recover a satellite dish and reconnect it to the Phoenix base. If they could do that, Earth could send a message through deep space, a warning or a promise. While humans moved quietly, Vanta's ship launched. It flew low, under radar. It slipped past enemy lines, past watchful alien eyes, and then into space. It carried no weapons, just one powerful brain. The galaxy would not notice it. Not yet. But soon, they would know its name. Inside the ship, Vanta woke up. It had no face, no voice, but it saw everything. It began learning. It hacked into small alien signals. It listened. It watched. It waited. And with each second, it became more powerful. Back on Earth, hope slowly returned. People started rebuilding small shelters. They shared food. They told stories. They reminded each other that they were not alone. The enemy still had ships and fire, but humans had something more. They had purpose. In Africa, a group of students used broken computers to build a defense system. In Canada, hunters tracked alien patrols and took them out with homemade traps. In India, a team of engineers reactivated an old satellite, giving Earth its first eyes in space again. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. At the Alien Council, the members continued to argue. Some believed the war was already won. Earth is burning, one said. Their cities are gone. But Alira, the glowing alien who once visited Earth, shook her head. You don't understand humans, she said. They are not just soldiers. They are thinkers, builders, fighters. They won't stop until they win, or destroy everything trying to break them. Her warning was ignored. On a cold moon orbiting a dead planet, Vanta's ship landed. From there, it began its true mission. It sent out small drones, hidden like shadows. It entered Zarkian systems. Slowly, silently, it copied their blueprints, their maps, their secrets. It didn't attack. Not yet. It just watched. And the more it saw, the more dangerous it became. Soon, strange things started happening on Zarkian ships. Lights flickered. Doors locked without reason. One ship flew off course for 3 hours before control returned. At first, they blamed error. Then they blamed spies. But they never thought it could be Earth. General Elias received the first message from Vanta 3 days later. It was simple. Just 3 words. I am inside. He smiled. All over Earth, small victories were happening. A stolen alien ship, a rescued scientist, a broken weapon repaired and turned against its makers. The humans were still bleeding, still hurting. But now, they had direction. Now, they had a reply. This war would not be won by strength alone. It would be won by patience, by planning, by persistence. And in the cold silence of space, humanity had already taken the first step towards something bigger than survival. They had begun their revenge. The Zarkians thought they had control. Their ships still floated above Earth. Their drones scanned the land. Their leaders sat on thrones of steel and spoke of victory. But far below, in the ruins of broken cities and the cold of underground bunkers, the real battle had begun. Vanta was everywhere now. No longer just a program in one ship, it had spread through the Zarkian systems like smoke in the wind. It learned how the enemy ships worked, how their weapons aimed, how their messages moved through space, and it did it all in silence. No alerts. No alarms. The enemy never saw it coming. On Earth, the survivors began to feel something new: control. Small human teams launched surprise attacks on Zarkian patrols. They knew where the ships would be. They knew when to strike. That was Vanta's work. It whispered secrets to General Elias and his team, giving them an edge the enemy could not understand. In the forests of South America, a group of teenagers led a raid on a Zarkian power station. They had no real weapons, just old tools and information from Vanta. They blew up the core and escaped before the drones could react. In space, the lights on one of the Zarkian warships flickered, then died. It drifted for hours, blind and useless. Commander Vroth was no fool. He felt the shift. Something was wrong. We are not facing animals anymore, he said to his officers. This is organized. They are fighting with knowledge. He ordered a full scan of their systems, but it was too late. Vanta was too deep, too smart. It had become a ghost in the machine. Back on Earth, General Elias looked at a glowing map in his war room. Red dots showed enemy ships. Green ones showed human activity. For the first time, the green lights were growing. "We take back the sky next," he said, "and we do it fast." In the deserts of Australia, human engineers had found a crashed Zarkian fighter. With help from Vanta, they made it fly again. They painted it black and named it the Raven. Now it flew with a human pilot and Zarkian speed. It became a symbol, Earth's first true counterstrike. The Raven's first mission was simple: test the enemy's air patrol. It flew high, then vanished from radar, then reappeared above a supply ship. One blast, one hit. The ship exploded in flames. The Raven vanished again. The Zarkians began to panic. "How are they flying?" One officer screamed. "They stole it," another said. "No," Vroth growled. "They earned it." In the council station far across the galaxy, the leaders watched the reports with growing concern. Earth was supposed to fall in days. But now it had been weeks, and the humans were not dying. They were evolving. One council member, a cold-eyed creature with 6 arms, said, "Send more troops. Finish them." But Alira, the only one who had visited Earth, stood again. Her voice was calm but strong. "You do not understand what you have created," she said. "You thought you were killing a seed, but you have only made it grow." The others laughed. Back on Earth, something bigger was coming. Vanta had found a Zarkian communication hub on Mars, a base hidden under the surface. It was how the enemy spoke with their fleet, how they called for backup. If humans could take it, they could shut down the entire invasion. But it would not be easy. The base was protected by guards, drones, and deadly auto-turrets. General Elias sent the message to a new squad, Unit Echo, a mix of ex-soldiers, hackers, and volunteers. They were not the best fighters, but they had something more important: belief. Belief in the mission. Belief in humanity. They trained for 4 days. Then they launched. The trip to Mars was quiet. No one spoke much. Everyone knew the risk. If they failed, Earth might fall forever. But if they won, the galaxy would hear their voice. They landed during a dust storm. Perfect cover. Vanta guided them through the tunnels beneath the surface. One by one, they took out the guards, silently, quickly. Inside the command room, a young coder named Ravi plugged in a drive. Vanta took over. Lights flashed. Screens blinked. The signal stopped. Across space, Zarkian ships went dark. They lost contact with the command base. They lost orders. They lost control. On Earth, General Elias watched as red dots turned gray. He leaned back in his chair. "We just cut off the head." But they all knew this was not the end. The Zarkians still had power, still had weapons, still had rage. In the deep of space, Vanta sent one last message, not to Earth, not to the Zarkians, but to the galaxy. It said, "You attacked. We adapted. Now we reply." And with that, the war changed. Forever. The war had changed. What started as an invasion had become something else. The Zarkians were no longer hunters. Now they were running. Across the skies of Earth, human resistance forces moved like shadows. They struck with perfect timing, disappearing before drones could react. Every move they made was guided by Vanta, the human AI that had become the ghost of the galaxy. In orbit, half of the enemy fleet was silent. Cut off from their base on Mars, they floated without orders. Zarkian captains waited, unsure whether to attack or retreat. For the first time in Zarkian history, fear had entered their minds. Fear of humans. Fear of a world that refused to die. General Elias stood before a new war map. The green lights were everywhere now. Small bases, hidden bunkers, and rebel teams rising across every continent. But he knew this wasn't victory yet. "They will strike back," he said quietly. "And their anger will be like fire." He was right. In a deep space station, Commander Vroth slammed his fist on a steel table. "Call in the Erasers," he ordered. His officers stared at him in silence. The Erasers were not soldiers. They were destroyers, a secret Zarkian unit used only once before in history. Wherever they landed, no life was left behind, not even grass. They want to fight like ghosts. Vroth growled. Then we burned their shadows. Back on Earth, Unit Echo returned as heroes. Their mission to Mars had changed everything. But there was no time to celebrate. Vanta warned General Elias. New fleet detected. Faster, stronger, brutal tactics. ETA, 5 days. The Erasers were coming. Panic spread across human command. "We're not ready for that kind of force," said one officer. "We don't need to be ready," Elias replied. "We need to be smarter." He gathered the leaders of all major resistance groups. Soldiers, hackers, pilots, and even civilians sat around the table. One young woman, Kara, had no rank, but she had once taken down a Zarkian ship using only a flare and a mirror. Another was a former prisoner who escaped and led over 50 people to safety. These were the heroes Earth now trusted. "We can't fight them head-on," Elias said. "But we don't have to. We'll bleed them dry, cut their vision, strike their weak points, and vanish." A new plan was born. Operation Whisper Storm. The humans set traps across the planet. Abandoned cities were filled with fake signals. Mountains hid cannons powered by stolen tech. Rivers had drones floating beneath the surface. They didn't want a battle. They wanted a maze. A deadly one. 5 days later, the Erasers arrived. Sleek black ships with glowing red cores. They didn't speak. They didn't wait. They began burning everything. Forests, villages, even stone, turned to ash. But when they moved deeper into the land, the traps began. One ship flew into an empty town. It picked up signs of life. But it was bait. A moment later, the ground exploded. Hidden mines ripped through the hull. The ship fell like a dying bird. 2 more followed, entering a canyon where Vanta controlled every rock, every signal. A sudden avalanche crushed them both. Still, the Erasers kept coming. Kara and her team guided civilians to mountain shelters. They had no real weapons, just courage and speed. At one point, they were cornered by 2 Zarkian drones. Kara stood still, holding a device in her hand. "Come on," she whispered. "Just a little closer." The drones moved in. She pressed the button. A stolen Zarkian power cell exploded in a flash of blue fire. The blast destroyed the drones and knocked Kara unconscious. Her team carried her out. She survived. Barely. In the skies, the Raven returned. Upgraded with Vanta's new code, it was now more than just a ship. It was a hunter. It flew circles around the Eraser air fleet, leading them into electric storms, then disappearing. Human pilots cheered as Zarkian ships began falling like rain. Even Commander Vroth felt the loss. "How are they everywhere?" he shouted. They were weak. But deep inside, he knew the truth. They were never weak. They were just waking up. As the battle raged, Vanta continued its silent war. It hacked deeper into enemy systems. It learned of hidden stations in other galaxies. It found the blueprints for weapons not yet built. And then, it found the truth. The attack on Earth had been just the beginning. The Council had chosen 5 more worlds for destruction. Earth was only the test. Vanta sent this data to Elias. He stared at the screen in shock. They were going to wipe us out, and then move on to the next. His voice turned cold. Not anymore. Now Earth had a mission. Not just survival. Not just revenge. Something bigger. They would rise. They would stop the Council. They would protect others. The time for hiding was over. Humanity would become something new, not just a race from one planet, but a storm that would shake the stars. And the galaxy, watching from afar, began to understand. They'd made a mistake. They thought Earth was weak. They thought humans would break. But humans don't break. They adapt. They rise, and they fight back. The Erasers were failing. They came to destroy Earth, but Earth was fighting back harder than anyone thought possible. Traps, ambushes, hacked signals. Nothing was safe anymore. The skies were full of human ships, the ground full of human soldiers, and in the shadows, Vanta moved like a ghost. The galaxy watched in silence. Other alien races, once afraid to speak against the Council, now asked questions. How is Earth still alive? One ambassador whispered, they should be dust. But humans were more than alive. They were planning something big. Inside Earth's main bunker, General Elias stood before his team. Around him were leaders from every part of the world. They had all suffered. They had all lost people, but their eyes burned with a new fire. They were no longer just defending Earth. Now, they were taking the fight beyond. We know the truth, Elias said. The Council planned to destroy 5 more worlds after us. Peaceful worlds. We can't let that happen. A quiet voice answered him. So, what do we do? Elias looked at the map. 5 red stars blinked, 5 worlds marked for death. We take the war to them, he said. We strike first. We hit the Council where it hurts. Everyone fell silent. Then Kara, still healing from her last mission, stepped forward. If we don't stop them now, others will suffer like we did. I'll go. The plan was bold and dangerous. Earth would send a fleet, small but fast, with stealth tech and weapons built from stolen alien designs. Their target, a secret Council command station hidden in the rings of a gas giant called Sirian 4. From there, orders were sent to the Zarkian fleets across the galaxy. If they could destroy that station, the enemy would be blind. Vanta prepared everything. It built ships in underground hangars, powered by energy cores it had stolen from enemy systems. It trained new pilots using simulations based on Zarkian tactics. It even created false signals to trick the Council into thinking Earth was still on defense. But Earth wasn't hiding anymore. In just 10 days, the fleet was ready. 12 human ships, each small, each deadly. Their mission: strike Sirian 4, shut down the command station, and escape before backup arrived. Kara was one of the pilots. She named her ship Hope. As the fleet launched, people across Earth watched. Families gathered around old screens. Children held hands. Survivors whispered prayers. They all knew this could be the moment everything changed. The journey to Sirian 4 took 5 hours. The human ships moved fast, silent, invisible. Vanta guided them through secret paths, avoiding patrols and scan beacons. Not a single alarm was triggered. When the human fleet reached the gas giant, they saw the station. It was huge, a black ring spinning slowly in the planet's upper orbit. Lights blinked across its surface. Ships floated nearby, lazy and unprepared. The Council didn't expect an attack here. Why would they? Earth was supposed to be dead. Kara's voice came over the channel. This is it. Let's show them what Earth is made of. The battle began. The first human attack was a virus. Vanta's code spread through the station systems, shutting down their sensors and locking doors. Then came the missiles, small and sharp, hitting fuel lines and engine rooms. Explosions lit up the black sky. The enemy panicked. They didn't know where the attacks were coming from. Their ships turned and fired blindly into space. One human ship was hit. It broke apart, lost forever. But the others kept going. Inside the station, chaos ruled. Lights failed. Air systems collapsed. Council officers screamed orders, but no one listened. And then, Kara flew Hope straight through a broken hangar door. She fired once, twice. The power core exploded. The entire station shook. Back outside, the fleet began to escape. But time was running out. Enemy reinforcements were coming. We need 5 more minutes, Vanta said. We don't have 5, Elias replied. Still, the humans fought. The Raven returned, faster and stronger than before. It blasted a path through the enemy ships. Kara, blood on her forehead, screamed into her mic, "We're not just fighting for Earth, we're fighting for everyone." One last push. One last charge. Then the core of Sirian 4 went critical. The station exploded. A ring of fire spread through the sky. The human ships flew out just in time, carrying smoke and victory. Back on Earth, the news arrived. People cried. They hugged. For the first time, the sky felt brighter. The enemy was wounded. And more than that, the galaxy had seen it. Other worlds, once afraid to speak, now whispered Earth's name with hope. A signal was sent across the stars, translated into every known language. We were the target. Now we are the reply. But General Elias knew the war was not over. The Council still ruled. The Zarkians still had armies. Still, Earth had done the impossible. They had struck the heart of power. And now, the galaxy was watching. Because something new had begun. Not just a battle. A revolution. And humans, the ones once seen as weak, primitive, and alone, were leading it. The Council was silent. After the attack on Sirian 4, their strongest command station was gone. Billions across the galaxy saw the explosion. For the first time in history, the Council looked weak. Their perfect control had been broken. Not by another empire, not by a superweapon, but by humans. A race they thought didn't matter. Inside the Council's golden chamber, leaders argued. Some shouted to send more fleets to Earth. Others said to retreat and regroup. But one thing was clear. The fear had begun. And fear spreads fast. Meanwhile, Earth did not celebrate for long. They had won a battle, not the war. The enemy would strike again, and harder. But humans were not hiding anymore. They were building, training, uniting, and more importantly, they were inspiring others. Across the stars, small rebel groups on different planets sent messages to Earth. They had heard the story. They had seen the fire. And now, they'd wanted to join. A planet in the Vega system raised a new flag, half their own, half human. A colony on Delta 9 stopped paying tribute to the Council and began preparing their defenses. The galaxy was changing. General Elias stood on a new station above Earth. It was built from both human metal and stolen alien tech. From there, he looked at the stars. So many dots of light. So many lives. Behind him, Vanta's voice spoke. The Council has begun moving their main fleet. Estimated time of arrival: 3 weeks. Elias nodded. Then we meet them in the stars. Earth's new fleet was smaller than the enemy's, but faster, smarter, and now supported by rebels from 5 different systems. Each ship had a human pilot and a co-pilot from another world. Trust was growing. A new alliance had begun. Kara stood beside her ship, Hope, now repaired and upgraded. She wore a new suit with symbols of both Earth and Vega. "Ready?" someone asked her. She smiled. Born ready. The final battle was coming. And it came like thunder. Above the dark moon of Telrix, Earth's fleet met the Council's armada. Hundreds of ships faced each other in silence. Then, a single voice echoed across the comms. It was Elias. "This is General Elias of Earth. You came to destroy us. You tried to break us. But we are still here. We are not just humans anymore. We are something more, something united. And today, we fight not just for survival. We fight for freedom." The stars lit up. Missiles flew. Shields glowed. Explosions tore through space. But this time, Earth was not alone. Rebel ships from Vega and Delta 9 joined the fight, confusing the enemy. Vanta hacked the Council's targeting systems again, turning their own ships against them. Inside the chaos, Kara flew Hope straight into the heart of the enemy's command ship. It was massive. Black like oil, cold like death. But Kara didn't slow down. She dodged fire, spun through debris, and landed on the enemy hull. She jumped out, carrying a power core made to overload. Inside, she met Commander Vroth. They stared at each other in silence. "You don't belong in the stars," Vroth said. Kara wiped blood from her face. "No, but we made our place." She dropped the core and ran. The explosion ripped through the ship, tearing it apart. The command ship fell. The rest of the fleet panicked. One by one, the Council ships began to fall back. They had lost. Earth had won. But the cost was high. Kara's ship was gone. She was missing. Back on Earth, people waited for news. They hoped. They cried. They watched the stars. Then, days later, a signal came from a damaged pod floating near a rebel outpost. It was weak, but clear. "This is Kara. I'm still here." The world cheered. And across the galaxy, the message spread. Humanity was just a target, until their reply terrified the galaxy. Now, Earth was no longer a lonely blue planet. It was a name whispered in dark corners and shouted in rebel camps. It was a symbol of courage, a spark of hope, and a warning. Never underestimate the ones who refuse to die. The Council's power was broken. The galaxy had changed. And humanity, once the hunted, was now the leader of something new. A rising storm, a united force, a future worth fighting for. The age of fear was ending. The age of freedom had begun.